you wondering which plugins you need to get your vocals to sound clean and professional? Lucky for you, you don't need to wonder anymore, because I'm about to reveal the best plugins for doing exactly that. These are the plugins that I personally use to get my vocals Spotify ready. Using the wrong plugins can end up with you getting a result you don't want and don't like, so don't miss this. Links to all the plugins I mentioned in this video will be in the description down below, so click away. But before we use our domain expansion to get a guaranteed hit, I've got a question for you. That question is, what's the plugin every engineer needs to master for clean, professional quality vocals? Leave your answer in the comment section down below. If you don't know, don't worry, because I'll be revealing the answer later on in the video. Just stay tuned. Now let's get into it. For each of these plugins, I'll play a before and after of the plugin switched off and then switching it on, so you can see the difference and you can see how it affects the vocal audio. First of all, I'm gonna play a short snippet of this song that I'm working on. After that's done, I'm gonna turn off all the effects and we're going to walk through the main plugins you need to use in order to get your vocals sounding better. And then as we walk through each of the plugins, we'll turn them on and get back to where we started, the same sound. So let's start with a loop. We're actually going to use this loop consistently so that we're always playing back the same part of the song. We're going to play from here and just get into it, play a little bit of this verse. Maybe we'll play the first verse, we won't get into the pre-chorus, and then we'll circle back.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot. Never shared a bed, never thought that it was love. Never saw a future where it was just us. Ooh. Let's play make-believe like we couldn't see it coming. Make it seem like if we had the choice we wouldn't take off running, huh? Let's act like we loved the way it turned out. Force a smile with both our lips like it don't hurt now. Nothing was the same. Got me quoting Drake right now. Nothing feels safe right now. Smoking on me to the pain. Bet he's at your place right now. Tasting half your face on the couch. Ain't it crazy how things change, huh? And the truth hurts. We can dodge the truth, but can't outrun the universe. All your thoughts are second thoughts. Never knowing what you're heading for.
Okay, that's enough. That was basically the verse, pre-chorus, a bit of the chorus, but honestly, that doesn't matter because that's not important for this particular video. But let's create a little loop. Let's turn off all the plugins and then I'll be right back. Now I'm gonna leave on a few plugins. I'm gonna leave on all the reverbs and I'm gonna leave on auto-tune because we're not gonna be including that in our list for clean and professional vocals, although you should already know about auto-tune. That's for tuning your vocals, not really for mixing, but it does add some tone and some effect to your vocals, so there's that if you want to grab it. First up on the list is EQ. So let's play it back without the EQ, and the EQ that I personally use is Neutron, but we're going to get into that shortly. We're going to play it back without the EQ, then we're going to add the EQ on, okay? This is what it sounds like.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot.
You hear that? Muddy, dirty, disgusting. Don't want that. Now, I'll generally use a stock EQ. When I'm mixing my beats, I'll just use the FL Studio EQ. But I used the Neutron 3 EQ for my vocal mixing template just because I really like the ease of use. Like, you can easily create high shelves and cuts and high passes and that sort of stuff like really easily. So that's why I use this EQ plugin. But honestly, I don't really see a big difference between using a stock EQ plugin and using a paid EQ plugin in terms of the way it sounds, but I haven't done a lot of research into that, so don't take my word for it. They may sound completely different. Like, some of these paid plugins may just sound amazing. I don't know, I haven't done the testing. The thing is, EQ is the most important plugin you'll use on your vocals. Without good EQ, nothing can save your vocals and nothing can make it sound clean and professional without good EQ. I use 5 instances of EQ on my vocal chain in order to take away frequencies, to add frequencies, and to take away more frequencies after specific plugins. For example, for this first EQ, we're doing a little bit of cleanup, cutting to 229 hertz for the bass, and we're cutting out some muddy sections and whatnot. I've already done videos on EQ, so I'm not going to get super deep into this. We've got a high shelf over here to make our vocals a little bit more sharp in the high end, and then we've got an EQ that takes away more frequencies that have been added by compressors and what have you, and then we've got other EQs even later down the line to take away more effects that have been added by other effects, basically. So don't be afraid on using more than one EQ. EQ is your friend. EQ is beautiful. Learn how to use EQ. Now we're going to turn on all our EQs. It may actually sound a bit weird because these EQs are predicated on actually the other instruments that are adding different tones. So it may not sound great, but I have no doubt that it's going to sound better than it just did. So again, let's turn off our inserts and we'll play it back with no EQ, and then we'll play it with EQ.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot.
And now with EQ.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot.
Sounds a little bit too sharp though. And that's because the rest of our plugins and effects haven't come in, because a lot of those do add a lot of warmth and take away some of the high end. That's why we had to add so much more high end back in with our EQ. Next, we've got our compressors, our trio of compressors. We've got our Vox, Neutron 3, and the CLA 76 compressor. Thing is, these three compressors sound amazing. They each give you a different tone and effect, but you can't go wrong with any of them. Of course, I suggest getting all three because that gets me the vocal tone and effect that I like and the perfect sound that I'm aiming for, but you'll be able to achieve a lot with just one of these. May not achieve exactly the sound that I've got, but you'll be able to achieve more than you'll get without it. I use our Vox Neutron 3 and the CLA 76 compressor to spread the compression job and spread the processing workload throughout my vocal chain. Then I also use the CLA compressor to add some parallel compression too. Also, an honorable mention, the MV2 Waves compressor seems like a great compressor too, and I've bought it, but I haven't actually had the chance to play with it, so I can't really recommend it here, although it does offer both high level and low level compression, which is great for making your vocals even tighter. So I thought mentioning it here will give you a good nod in the right direction. Let's play before and after of adding these compressors now.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot.
That's before, and this is with all our compressors, as well as the parallel compression.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot.
See how those high-end sibilances come right back down, and we've got a whole lot more warm mid-end, and it just sounds a whole lot better, sounds a whole lot more professional, and sounds fuller and less weak and tinny like it did before without those compressors. Great times. Number 3 is the Waves Doubler. This plugin gives your vocals a wider, more epic feel. It's simple enough to use and it's essential for getting big, impactful vocals. Let's play it before and after.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot.
Just realized I didn't even show you these compressors. Let's quickly bring it up so you can see the compressors, and then I'll show you the doubler. So this is our Vox. This is the Neutron 3 compressor. It's a multi-band compressor. And this is CLA 76, which I generally will use if I ever need to add another compressor. It will be the CLA 76. And here is the Waves doubler. And these are the settings I'm using. And let's quickly play this back again without the doubler, and then we'll turn it back on so you have the quick reference back and forth.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine.
And this is with the doubler turned on.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot. Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot.
Very, very subtle because I didn't add a lot of audio to the doubler, but it does make a difference and it does widen your vocals ever so slightly, enough that you can't really notice it, but enough that it makes a difference, which is a big key in a lot of mixing decisions. You kind of want to do things that aren't noticeable but make a difference. If you want to get your vocals half mixed before you even get to the mixing stage, you can grab my Spotify ready vocal mixing secrets template by clicking on the link in the description or going to jcarteray.com/vocal templates. This template also comes with a PDF that walks you through all the settings that I use for all the different plugins I use. So if you don't have the same plugins that I use, you don't want to use the same plugins, you can use your own plugins, input my settings, and get a very, very similar sound. This is what I'm using right now, the Spotify Ready vocal mixing template. It saves me a lot of time, and honestly, I haven't done any mixing to this right now. Everything you're hearing is just my template. I haven't done anything extra. So if you want that same experience for your own songs, link down below. Plugin number 4 is Nectar 3. I use this to add saturation and a de-esser. So let's actually come down here, and we've got our de-esser quite quickly, and it just gets rid of some of the sibilants from the S's and the F's and those sorts of sounds. Here's the de-esser from Nectar 3, and we also have a saturation plugin as well at the end to just give it a little bit more warmth. Let's play before and after. This is also a great all-in-one plugin for mixing vocals. Saturation is essential for making your vocal recording sound warmer, more analog and less digital, especially after we've carved out a lot of those muddy mid frequencies and the low end frequencies from our vocals. It's good to add good frequencies back in. So here's before.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot.
This should have a good effect on that sex before, because there you got this and the f and the f back to back. So saturation and de-esser, let's hear it in action.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot. Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before.
So it just tones it down a little bit. If we get rid of the de-esser, you'll hear it's...
Never had sex before.
You see how loud that is?
Had sex before.
And then if we bring that de-esser back in,
Never had sex before.
it's just tone it down a little bit. It's like, hey, chill out, mate. Chill out. Those sounds can get annoying very, very quickly. So it's very important to use a de-esser. Number 5, plugin number 5 is Neutron 3. Now, we've already mentioned Neutron 3 for both compression and EQ, so I'm not going to get into that. But you can already tell Neutron 3 is a very powerful plugin that brings a lot of things to the table. It's a full mixing suite made for mixing vocals, mixing beats, mixing songs. So it's definitely something you should check out. I highly suggest it. Link down below. You can try it with a trial, and you definitely should. But let's focus on the last thing that I use from Neutron 3, and that is the gate. Now, what a gate does is it removes low-level sounds like noise in the background and little tuts with my mouth. You know, when I'm opening my mouth, you might hear something like that, and breaths and stuff like that. It basically makes our audio cleaner. It doesn't get rid of everything, but it's better than no gate, and it saves us time editing our audio. Now, I personally will go through and remove any breaths that are too loud, but anything that can be removed with a gate is removed with a gate, and that's good vibes. That means that's less work for us to make our vocals sound better. So this is what it sounds like without the gate, and then I'll add the gate after. But honestly, I don't think there's a lot here that needs a gate on it because it's quite a clean recording, but let's play it back regardless.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot.
And then with the gate.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot.
Maybe if we solo this, we can see what we hear
Let's
without the gate.
pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a vaccine shot.
I mean, you can't really hear the noise in the background, but if we put some gate on it.
Let's pretend we're friends like we never had sex before. Never had your head on my chest, in my arms like a...
It does sound tighter. It sounds like there's some sort of minor room sound that we're not really registering, but it is there. And then when the gate's on, it sounds a whole lot tighter, like that room sound is gotten rid of, and we're just hearing the vocals as we're supposed to hear them, which is great. Before we get into the next section, I've got to remind you that the best way to get clean professional vocals is to start with a good vocal recording. If your recording is trash, redo it. Relying on plugins and mixing to save a bad recording is a bad strategy. Whenever you can, re-record. This is why having a template set up with all the plugins that you're gonna use and all your mixing effects active is so important. It gives you the opportunity to hear what your vocals are gonna sound like with all your mixing applied to it already. So you immediately know if you need to go back and re-record your vocals instead of recording it and thinking, I can probably fix that when it comes to mixing. Or even the opposite, you might record something and because it's got no mixing effects on it, it may sound absolutely terrible. Like when I turned everything off, the vocal recording didn't sound great, did it? But because it didn't have the essential effects like EQ and compression, I might have redone that vocal recording way more than I needed to. That's why you should grab my Spotify ready vocal mixing template, because it will prevent things like that. And as soon as you record, you'll know whether this is a take that you need to redo or whether it's a take that sounds pretty good. Remember, link down below. Now it's time to answer the question from earlier. Earlier I asked, what's the plugin every engineer needs to master for clean professional vocals? The answer is EQ. Without EQ, nothing else matters, because you'll have muddy, dirty vocals and there's no amount of compression or saturation that will save you. You need to get rid of those. And the only way you can get rid of frequencies that sound terrible is with EQ. EQ is essential. Now let's quickly recap the plugins that I mentioned in this video. Remember, links down below. First up, we have EQ. You can either use Neutron 3 or use a stock EQ. Then we've got RVox, Neutron 3, and the CLA 76 compressor. Then we've got the Waves doubler. Number 4 was Nectar 3. And number 5 was Neutron 3 yet again. That was the star of this video, I guess, because Neutron 3 did come up a bunch of times. As I said before, links to all these plugins down below in the description. Please use those links as it helps out the channel at no extra cost to you. So if you like this video, if it helped you out, use those links. If you've got any questions or any other videos you want me to make, please let me know in the comment section down below. Check out that video next, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.